Okay, so Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite authors of all time. And it's been crazy for the last year or so. We've been working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation and Don Green, a bunch of different things. Like 2 weeks ago, I believe Justin Benton, one of our Inner Circle members. Let's give Justin a round of applause. So Justin flew out there, had a chance to meet with all of them, and negotiated a deal with them where we could actually have here on the stage today the actual typewriter that Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich on. So check this out. This is the actual typewriter that he wrote that book on. Is that crazy? Can the camera see this? You guys show everybody? Okay. Now, Justin, we love you. And not only that, so Think and Grow Rich is an amazing book, but actually my favorite book by Napoleon Hill is a book called Outwitting the Devil. How many of you guys have had a chance to read Outwitting the Devil? Yes? This right here is the original manuscript, Outwitting the Devil, that was typed on this typewriter. Is that the craziest thing in the world? Can you imagine like Napoleon Hill sitting on this typewriter typing these words that became this book that's changed my life and changed so many of your guys' lives as well? And so this is just kind of a special thing that Justin was able to pull off before this whole event started, which is really cool because, like I said, the title of this presentation is called The Drifter versus the Driven, which is the whole thought that I kind of got when I started reading that book. When you read that book, it's really interesting. If you look at the timeline of events, it's really fun. So Napoleon Hill sat down in 1937 and wrote Think and Grow Rich on this typewriter right here, and then published it to the world, and it became one of the greatest selling books of all time. I think it sold over 100 million copies at this point. And then the next year, he sat there, he was inspired, he felt this calling, he sat down, put a piece of paper, and started typing the manuscript for Outwitting the Devil. And he wrote this book, which is, again, one of my favorite books of all time. And when he got done writing it, he said, if I publish this right now, he's like, people will destroy me. Like, it's not ready for today. Like, if I do this, it's going to be really, really bad. And so he never published it during his lifetime. He passed away in 1970, and his wife ended up getting the manuscript, and she looked at it, she read it again, and she's like, I can't publish this either. It's too controversial. It's too many things. It's not, like, the world's not ready for it yet. And so she had it. When she passed away, it got passed on to the next person, and finally, eventually, it got into the hands of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and they decided it was time to actually publish it. And so they published this book, and it was a book that was written, like I said, 100 years ago, that was written for today, for all of us. And it's just such an amazing book. And in the book, it's interesting. I gotta be careful of the stage's hues. I'm gonna lose my my clicker sometime if I leave it somewhere. In this book, the premise is he's having this conversation with the devil, where the devil has to tell him anything he wants. And so Napoleon Hill has this chance. Like, I asked the devil anything I want. What should I ask him? And this is what he asked him. He said, "Tell me all the tricks by which you enter into and you control the minds of men." You want to know, like, what do you do? Like, I'm seeing this happening all over the place. Like, what are the things you do to get inside the minds of men to control them from not doing good, from not living up to their missions, their purpose, to like what they're capable of doing? And the devil wrote back, or talked him back and said, "The greatest weapon I have over human beings is I established the habit of drifting." And then in this book, he goes on, he talks about people who are drifters and people who are non-drifters. And I started reading this, and like, as he's going through like people that are drifters and like their tendencies and what they do and why they do and things like that, like, I did not resonate with that. And I didn't resonate, honestly, with the word non-drifting as well. And I was like, what's a word that like, I don't want to be a non-drifter. I want to be something more powerful, something more amazing. And so the phrase I started using about a year ago is like, I'm not a drifter, I'm driven. I'm someone who's driven. And so that's what this title of this presentation is, The Drifter versus the Driven. Because you guys are here in a room of a whole bunch of driven people. And I'm curious, how many guys before you came here, there are friends, people you love, people you care about who are like, why are you going to this event? You're going to Florida to go talk about marketing with a bunch of nerds in a room for 4 days? How much did you spend over here, right? Right? Most of the people we love and we care about, they're not driven like we are, and they think that we're crazy. How many of you guys have someone who you love who thinks you're crazy for being here right now? Okay. Okay, but we are the driven. We understand that we're a little bit crazy. We're a little bit different, right? And so the first thing I want to talk about is this concept of drifting, because I want to make sure that we are careful that we don't become drifters, that we don't fall back into those ways. So throughout this weekend, you're going to hear a lot about this principle of the hero's journey. How many of you guys have heard about the hero's journey before? Okay. I'm going to talk about it. Bill Allen's going to talk about it a lot, I think, in 2 days from now, which is like, he's going to geek out with you guys and have so much fun. But the basis premise, those who don't know, is throughout time, throughout history, throughout every generation, every like cultural group around the world, when they went back, they started studying everybody's stories and things like that. Every story kind of followed the exact same story timeline, right? And Joseph Campbell was the first to kind of identify it. He wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces that kind of mapped out like every hero and every journey, every single story followed the same process. After that, a whole bunch of other amazing people have taken it and figured out different ways to teach it. I taught a lot about it in the Expert Seekers book. But if you look at that, it's interesting because in every single journey, it starts with you, right? You are this person. You are the hero, okay? You think of any book, any movie, any story, your story, the reason you guys are here today, right? We all start, and we start in this place called the ordinary world. That says ordinary world. I have horrible handwriting. I apologize in advance, but now there's the legend. That means ordinary world. So we start in this thing, right? And we're in this ordinary world, and we all want to achieve something. We have some dream, some vision, something we want to go for, right? We have this thing over here. This is this target we're going for. There's a target. We want to achieve this thing, right? It's a journey of achievement, right? We want to achieve this thing. And sometime in our life, we're sitting here, and we're in our normal world. So for all of you guys, your normal world is wherever you live, right? You're in your home. You're doing something, right? So you're comfortable. Everything's fine. Nothing's bad, but you're just like, I'm comfortable. And all of a sudden, you hear the call, okay? He calls it they call it in the hero's journey, they call it the call to adventure, right? And they hear this call to adventure. And the call happens, and all of a sudden, you're like, wait, what is that? And you feel it. And it may not be an audible like call, but you feel it. How many of you guys have felt that before? You felt that call of like, I'm made for something more, right? I'm made for something great. And you feel that call, and you're like, and all of a sudden, if you look at the timeline of the hero's journey, what always happens is the hero hears the call to adventure, right? And they get excited. They want to move forward, and then something happens. Immediately, every single time, in every single story, throughout time, throughout history, throughout every single culture around the world, after they hear the call to adventure, the first thing happens is the hero refuses the call. No, I'm not ready for that. I'm not worthy for that. I look like I'm 11 years old. I'm scared to death. I talk too fast. I don't want to be on stage. It's like I'm so introverted and scared. Like, no. I'll do anything but not that. I want to achieve that, but like, I'm not willing to do that. The first thing it hits every single time is the refusal to call, right? And so this direction right here is faith. Like, I'm going to do that thing, and all of a sudden we hear the refusal to call, which is fear. And that fear hits us, and we're like, I'm not ready. I'm not worthy. I don't know if I can do this. I don't have the talents. I don't have the abilities. Like, what am I going to do, right? And we have the refusal to call. Okay? The difference between the driven and the drifters, the driven, in spite of that, they have the same fear, right? But instead the refusal to call happens, they say, no, like, I'm going to do it. I hear the calling so loud, so, like, it keeps happening. I keep hearing it. It's beating, it's pulsing. Like, I got to follow that thing, right? And so we go, we pursue it. And those who decide to not follow fear, we follow faith. These are the driven. These are the ones who are going and trying to achieve something. These are you guys here in this room today, okay? You give yourselves a round of applause for that. And so, yes. So that's where this whole thing begins with, okay? Those who drift, it's not because they're bad people. It's because they hear the call and they get scared. And the fear overcomes them. They don't do anything. They stop and they hold back, right? Ryan Moran, who owns capitalism.com, one of my friends, he said something so powerful one time. He was trying to define what an entrepreneur was. And he said, an entrepreneur is somebody who decides to take personal responsibility for a problem that's not their own. Is that powerful? Right? We hear this call, like, why? Like, I think about, like 20 years ago when I got started in this game. I was 20 years old. I didn't know anything about business or marketing. I had I shouldn't tell I have three of my kids here in this room. Kids, you can cover yours. I had a cumulative 2.1 GPA in college. I was not smart by any stretch of the imagination. And all of a sudden one day, for some reason, I get excited by this nerdy thing called marketing. And there's this old guy with a Fu Manchu talking about like these things. I'm like, what? Like, I got so excited about direct mail and marketing and like all, like for some reason I was interested in it, right? It's that call to venture. Like, why is this so fascinating to me? I have no idea. But it was. I started learning and studying and started like geeking out, started going deeper and deeper, right? And this is what the devil said back to Napoleon Hill, because he asked him, he said, what is a drifter? What does that mean? He said, the drifter is someone who accepts whatever life throws in his way. He doesn't know what he wants from life and spends most of his time getting just that. Okay, the opposite of that, the driven, like we know what we want. We have definite a purpose. Like, that's the thing I want. That's the goal I'm going for. That's what I'm moving towards, right? We know what that thing is. You guys wouldn't be in this room if you didn't know something like, I want something different. I want something more. Maybe you don't know exactly what it is yet. But you're like, man, whatever these people in this room have, I want that. I want to experience that. I want to feel that, right? And so you have a direction, motion. You're moving forward, which is unique, which is different than most people. Okay, so faith versus fear. This is the next piece of the puzzle. So you have each of you guys here. You have the drifter. You have the driven, right? And then this is you as a person. Like I said, every single day you have this ability, right, to choose to move forward in faith. Like, and faith is a fascinating thing. With faith, you don't know what the answer is. You don't know where you're going to go. Like, how many of you guys got in this business like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. None of us do, right? We just have a goal. We have a vision. We have a thing we want to accomplish. And you start going like, I hope we figure this out somewhere before I run out of money, before I get tired, before like my spouse kicks me out. Right? I'm trying to figure this thing out. Like, you're moving forward in faith because we don't know what it is yet. We're moving as best we can. So the driven move forward in faith. The drifters, they stop. They get paralyzed with fear. Okay? Said in another way, those who are the driven are those who act. And those who are drifters are people who are acted upon. Okay? I want to be someone who acts. Now, what's interesting, if you look at this, it doesn't matter which direction you go. As you start doing either of these things over and over again, if you start moving forward in faith consistently over and over and over again, you're going to develop a pattern of moving forward in faith. If you start choosing fear over and over and over again, you're going to start building a pattern of fear. Okay? Napoleon Hill called this hypnotic rhythm. He said, if you're going here, you start building things like hypnotic rhythm. It's like almost like a whirlpool. You get stuck in this thing, right? It's like a tractor out in the field that's going around. It's in the mud with this big tires. It's building these ruts, and the ruts get deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually it gets hard to get out of it, right? But same thing's true if you're over here moving forward faith. You start building these patterns that go over and over and over again, and you're able to move forward and to be someone who's driven, right? And so it doesn't matter which direction you're going. You're getting these rhythms, either positive rhythms or negative rhythms. It all comes off of like, what is the thing we're choosing? Like, which direction are we going? Okay? And so I want to talk about this because so many times in my life and your life, like, we have this opportunity. This is us every single day, right? We're here, and an option comes to us. Do I show up? Do I not show up? Right? Do I choose faith? Do I choose fear? This is not something you pick once, and that's the pattern for your life. You pick it over and over and over again until it becomes hypnotic rhythm, until it becomes something that's part of you, right? That's not going away. I started thinking about just different times in my life where I was scared, right? Where I heard the calling, do this thing, and all of a sudden I got the refusal of the call. Like, no, you're not good enough, Russell. Like, oh, no, I know, but like, I feel like I need to do this thing. Yeah, but you're not ready. You're not worthy. You're not like all the things. Like, I know, but like, I want that thing really, really bad. And so I decided to move forward in faith. Okay? The first time in my life that I can say that this actually happened to me, because I literally was a drifter my entire life until 8th grade when my dad convinced me to go into wrestling. And I started wrestling, and very quickly I found out that I loved it. I wanted to do it. And I remember after my first year, I told all the guys on my team, I said, I'm going to be a state champion. I'm going to be a state champ. And they all started laughing at me. They're like, dude, you're like the worst on the team. You're not going to be a state champ. I'm like, yeah, I am. They're like, no, you're not. And they made fun of me, and they teased me, and they mocked me, and they beat me up over and over and over and over again. But I was like, that's the goal. That's where I'm going. So I kept moving forward with faith. And eventually, the people who were beating me up, I got better, and I got better. So eventually, I was able to get a spot where I could beat them. And I could beat the other people, and eventually I became a state champ. Thank you.